Hi, everyone, and welcome back to municipalcampaignschool.ca. Great to have you here. Another video that hopefully is going to be adding some value. Well, I know is going to be adding some value into your world as you think about running and building a campaign for the elections this fall. Really excited to have my good friend Diane Ballantyne joining us. Today, we're talking specifically about the challenges and barriers that women face in running for office. And I'm going to introduce Diane formally in a second. Before we do, though, let's ground ourselves with a land acknowledgement as we do with all our municipal campaign school efforts. So Diane, let me just first say thanks for joining us. Nice to have you here. So our land acknowledgement. It's a reminder that we're coming together from and we're connecting through technology from across the province, which is really exciting. And it's a reminder that no matter where we're sitting, no matter where our screens are today, there were peoples, cultures, and traditions on these very lands long before we were. And these wise peoples did their best to help us steward our land, our water, and our air. And unfortunately, we have done a terrible job at listening to their wisdom. And now our environment is paying the price for our not listening to them. More important than that, we have yet to fully acknowledge that our community is literally built on top of theirs. And we can no longer turn away from the social, economic, and emotional damage that we have done to generations of families across this country. I myself am just coming to terms with the word settler and what that means. I'm trying to better understand what my role in writing relationships with our Indigenous sisters and brothers is. And I do know that as we are chatting about leadership, as we're chatting about building community, as we're chatting about service, we need to remember those are values that started with Indigenous cultures. And those of us on this call today have the gift and honor of continuing on those values. And it's our responsibility to remind those leaders that follow us that they are in fact upholding those same Indigenous values and traditions. So lots of conversations that still need to happen there. Let's take a minute to remember here in Canada in particular, that truth has to come before reconciliation. So with that, Diane, thank you for joining us today. Nice to have you here. And this is going to be a shorter video because Diane's on a timeline today, which is great, which speaks to the busyness and greatness that Diane is. So let me introduce her and then we'll get into our conversation. So Diane lives and works and makes real impact in the community of Centre Wellington. She's been a teacher at Centre Wellington District High School for more than 20 years, and she has written for numerous publications, including TVO, CBC, and the Education Forum. As a community leader, Diane is continuously inspiring and asking others to do better. Just a few examples include the creation of Renegade Rainbows. She co-founded the CW Community Dinner Project and collaborated on the Hate Has No Home Here campaign that ran last summer. Diane ran for Wellington County Council, in 2018. She won Ward 6. She has served on the Ontario College of Teachers 8th Council and has chaired the Finance and Audit Committee at OCT. She currently holds a committee position with the Ontario College of Nurses and sits on the board of United Way, Guelph, Wellington, and Dufferin. And we're recording this in March of 2022. And I'm excited to say that Diane is the NDP candidate for the up-and-coming provincial election as well. And unfortunately, she couldn't find anyone qualified to run her campaign, so she is stuck with me. So full disclosure that Diane and I are working closely we've worked closely in past campaigns, and we are really leaning into the election coming up this June. So Diane, my friend, hello, thank you, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. And I want to, it's great to see you. And I want to mention that I'm beaming in from stolen land that was the traditional territory of the Neutrals, the Anishinaabe, and then the Haudenosaunee.
And thanks for that. I need to add that level of specificity to my acknowledgement. So thanks for that. So it's a good reminder. And we're doing these land acknowledgements in front of all our municipal campaign schools. Videos, if you're not doing that in front of audiences, you need to be doing that in front of audiences you're at as a potential candidate. So with that, Diane, we're chatting about the barriers that women face in running for office. And I'm wondering if you just want to kind of give us, just start there with this idea of barriers and running for office, and you've got lots of great insights and lots of experience. So what should we be thinking about?
I think that for women and racialized people, I think that there are additional barriers that exist in society because we know that sexism and racism is real. So, you know, if you acknowledge that to begin with, then the kinds of blocks that you may hit while you're trying to consider your run for office or while you're actually doing your run for office are very real. I think one of the first things, to speak to women in particular, is believing that you can do it, I think is one of the first barriers. And so I think when people who don't represent what currently sits around, traditionally around municipal council tables or the horseshoe or whatever it's referred to as, I think what you need to question about yourself is, am I interested in what's happening in my community? So am I wondering why this playground structure isn't getting built? Am I wondering why this particular historical building doesn't seem to be being protected as much as I would like? Or why is it so difficult to get a rainbow or a seven feathers crosswalk? Those kinds of things. If that's you, any of those things, where you sit around and you question and you read your local paper, then you are someone who could represent the concerns and the desires and interests of people in your community because you're already engaged. And maybe you're someone who has taken on organizing at, you know, maybe at your children's school or with a sports team or something like that. So then you already have demonstrated that you have the skills to communicate with people, to organize, and also to learn and listen to people. So if any of those characteristics are you're a perfect candidate to run for municipal council. You know, I think a lot of times women in particular will say, well, I don't understand the process of writing a bylaw, or I don't know what Robert's rules are, or something like that. And then you just will not give yourself enough credit that you can do it. And I know that in one of my several campaigns that you and I have worked on, at one of an all candidates meeting, you know, someone basically saying, well, you need to start here so that you can learn. And the fact that I had 3 degrees and had lots of leadership in the community didn't seem to be enough for this gentleman to believe that. It felt more like a tap on the head, little girl, you need to, you know, go through the ranks sort of thing. And so there's that sort of barrier. So when you have those messages coming from outside in our society, and then you also have very specific messages of you need to do more in order to be qualified. Those are really significant barriers to overcome. And then you add in that you're going to publicly try something that you've not done before. I mean, your name's going to go on a sign and it's going to be all around, and holy, it's a public fail if you don't win. But I would say to people that, yes, of course, that's a little bit scary. I'm not going to say that it isn't. I mean, you want to put forth your best efforts and you would like to be successful. But I would spin that in that it's a learning journey, that running for office isn't just about getting over that line to win, and it is a process. So one thing is that there is so much that you learn through that process. When I think about the very first campaign that I ran to the campaign that I'm currently in, and how much growth and learning we have experienced, because you can't know it all right away. And the other part is, think about what an amazing role model you are when you do put your name forward, and maybe you aren't successful, but you just dust yourself off, dry the little tear that you might have had the night that you found out you didn't win. And then you go and face your community and your workplace and your family, and it's okay. Because being the winner of a particular political race is not your entire identity.
Right.
It's a real important life experience to have. Of course, winning is great, don't get me wrong, That's why you're doing it. You want to win. But it often takes a few times in order to be able to win.
That's great advice. And for our viewers, I encourage you, if you haven't yet watched my chat with Sean Yo, I think it's video 4 or 5, where we chat about the exact same thing, that sometimes the first time you run, you may not win. And that's a win unto itself, right? And I think, and your leadership and together, we viewed a couple of those campaigns as, we're just going to stretch these muscles and find out, you know, how these mechanisms work and process, and it was very, I mean, we had fun, I think, because we viewed it a bit as an experiment. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it was, this is an activity that is, or a project that's got a beginning and an end, as far as a campaign goes, but that it was a small part of a wider project of continuing to work in the community and serve the community and support the community in various different ways, which is why the community dinner exists, why Renegade Rainbows happened, why we worked on Hate Has No Home here, because serving on council is one way to serve your community, but there are so many other ways to be able to do that. And those kinds of projects are important to me because they reflect my values. And whether I was in office or not, I would be involved in doing those kinds of projects because I think they're important in building community.
And you were instigating change, even though you weren't in an elected office yet, right? Like there was all that other great leadership you brought to the community was very much, well, let me ask you this. Did it have the same goal as running for office in terms of instigating change? Like, is that a similarity between those, the volunteer efforts and then the running for office, that motivation?
Okay. You're going to have to clarify that question a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was terrible. I set that up terribly. Sorry. The motivation for getting involved and leading all the great community stuff you do, how is that similar to the motivation of running for office?
Oh yeah, it is very similar. I mean, it's just another way of serving in your community. That's what it is. And also bringing an additional voice or perspective to the table. So, right. You know, I don't represent the LGBTQ community, but that doesn't mean that there aren't issues in our community with that particular group. And I can play a role in trying to raise the profile of that conversation to create more inclusion. So that's an example of that. Same with when we did the Hate Has No Home Here sign campaign. We clearly don't represent the community that was attacked in London or that we saw up in Harriston, the hateful words that were used. But as a person that experiences privilege, it's my responsibility to use that privilege to make sure that more people are feeling included, that more voices are being heard. And while I don't represent diversity in a wider perspective, in my own home community of Central Wellington Town Council, there are only white men on that council. And at County Council, where I do sit, there are 16 people around that horseshoe. 2 of them are women. All of us are white. So that doesn't lead to the best decision-making, not intentionally. I think a lot of times, but some people might laugh at this, but I think people who run for office honestly do want to serve in their community. They do want to make a positive difference, whatever that might be in their own minds. But more people's voices, experiences, lived experiences around that table are going to lead to better decisions. The corporate world already knows this. And the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, as well as the Associated Municipalities of Ontario, which are organizations that serve to have collective voice for municipal councils, they're already working really hard on programs about increasing diversity. Yeah. So yes, it's another way to serve your community. And the the inclusion and encouragement of more and more lived experiences is going to lead to better decision makings that serves more people in your community.
Absolutely. What practical advice can we offer people around some of the barriers that that you faced either on the campaign trail or in between election cycles? What kind of insights, or, and it may be a motivational piece or a just remember piece, but is there anything else we can offer our audience in terms of insights on how to really push back against those barriers as best we can?
I think one of the best things that I did when I was considering my very first municipal run is I called a woman who was already sitting on council.
Yeah.
And said, hey, can we get together and have a drink? Because I'm not sure. I think that this is something that I want to do, that I'm capable of, but I don't know that I really understand it quite enough. Can we have a conversation? She was very generous with her time, was very encouraging, because with all due respect to people that serve in politics, it isn't brain surgery, right? It requires a certain set of skills, but it's not an extraordinarily hard set of skills, right? You know, I have a daughter that's in engineering school. It's not being an engineer in order to be an elected politician. So it requires hard work, and it requires your ability to communicate, requires your ability to listen. Those are, and you know, you need to be aware of what's going on and invested in your community. So knowing those skills about yourself, then reaching out to someone who is serving is really helpful. I also think that sometimes people are afraid that it's going to cost an awful lot of money, and a municipal campaign doesn't cost a lot of money. You do not need to spend a great deal in order to mount a municipal campaign. It does cost a little bit of money, but not tens of thousands of dollars or anything like that. I also think that you need to be aware that you don't have to know everything. Yeah. You know, you're going to go out and talk to people. Yep. And some people are, you know, this is something that I needed to really work on. Like, I like to know things, and I'm a teacher, and I'm used to answering lots of questions. And I feel like a lot of the time that I'm supposed to have the answer when students ask me questions. And so something I needed to work on is that I don't know the answer to that question right now, but I'm going to get back to you on that. That's something really, it's okay to not know. You can't possibly know everything. And the people that you're going to speak to are going to have very different concerns. And it's good for you to say, I am going to find out more about that. You know, let's communicate, and then make sure that you get back to them about that. So not knowing enough is sometimes a barrier, that it's okay for you not know everything, but you have to be willing to put in the work to be able to learn it and get back to them.
Yes, and having the language to acknowledge it, acknowledge that you don't know it, and then move on, right?
Yes.
And we've learned this together, that, yes, you know, if we don't know it, okay, we'll figure that out. And now I'm going to bring you back to what I want to talk about, whether it be in a debate or you're stepping back from the door because your time is done. Like, that's another important skill that I think we've developed together.
Yes, right? We've be able to pivot. Yes, that is definitely something I'm continuing to work on. Yeah. Because I feel sometimes when someone asks me a question and I don't know the answer to it, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to get back to you on that. And then forget there's still something else that we could talk about here. That doesn't have to be the end of the conversation. Yes.
Let's take one more question, then we'll wrap up. Talk to us about the team that you've been able to build, and maybe the connection of that through all your great volunteering work, and how that is translated. And again, the similarities between them. Maybe it's more a networking conversation. How you've built network through your volunteering work that is indeed supporting the campaigns you run as well, and surrounding yourself with people as well.
Yeah, building a team for a campaign is it's challenging, but it would be almost impossible if you weren't someone who had already been actively serving in your community in a variety of different ways, because people don't naturally understand or say, oh, I want to support someone in their run for office. That isn't a regular skill set that most of us have. But if you see someone in your community who has been taking leadership in various different ways, then you can say, all right, maybe I, as somebody who's not running, can see that they have the potential and the voice that I would like to be representing me. So you need to, if you want to have a run for office, you need to make sure that you've made those kinds of connections with people in your community. Municipal politics is really wonderful because it isn't hemmed in by party, where some people see themselves in a particular silo, or they don't want to be identified with any party. So a provincial run is more challenging in some ways than a municipal run is, because it takes that label away. Building a team also, you know, a couple of close people, like you and I have known each other for 25 years, and you know, the members of your family are going to be supportive, a couple of your closest friends. But then when you go out a little bit wider, don't imagine that people are going to step up and want to help. You need to say, you know what, I would really like your skills in this particular area. Do you think you could, for a very short period of time, just a couple of months, could you help me out for a couple of hours a week? And you have to be willing to ask the question. And you also have to be totally okay when they say no, that's not something that they're able to do or interested in. Okay, that's totally fine, but I can't move forward if I don't at least ask the question.
When you're in campaign mode, you're constantly asking for two things, time and money, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's a unnatural thing for many of us to be thinking about, because it puts us in a place of discomfort and are we worthy, all that imposter syndrome piece.
Absolutely.
However,
Yes.
when you are in campaign mode, you're asking two things, time and money. And then
That's right.
And then the vote. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're also, you know, many women who are going to run are going to feel like they're self-sufficient. They're just a get it done kind of gal.
Right.
So the idea that you're asking for help somehow in your head makes you feel like that's weakness because you can't do it yourself. But what's the old adage? You know, if you want to go fast, you go by yourself. If you want to go far, then you need to go with other people. So you really need to work on your letting go of needing to, and maybe I'm just speaking about myself here, letting to control everything and and see that working in collaboration, actually, just like diversity on council, collaboration in your own campaign run is actually going to lead to a richer, better, more resonant kind of campaign.
Yes. And hopefully fun too. And this, again, back to Sean's, if you're not having fun in your campaign, you're not running a good campaign.
Right.
Because it's too much time, it's too much effort. You know, we need to be having some fun here. So just building on that point, it's
absolutely
surrounding yourself with people who you're going to laugh with and laugh at yourself with. It's really important. Yeah.
Yes, I'm happy to laugh at myself, and my team is happy to.
Oh, we're happy to laugh at you as well.
Oh yes, I'm sure you will. That's okay. I'm all right with that.
That's it. That's it. Brilliant. What have we heard from Diane today? We've heard that if you have skills that if you have skills around communication, around organizing, and you're interested in learning, there's likely a natural affinity for you to explore this more. So I really want to celebrate those skills that Diane identified for us, because they do lead to Diane's point, it's not rocket science sitting in those chairs. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of thinking. Those are really important skills. So if you've got them, you can run and you can win. And the other piece that I just want to reflect on and thank Diane for was that link between serving and responsibility, right? And that's very much a conversation that we're having throughout municipalcampaignschool.ca, that this is an act of service that we're encouraging people to take, and that comes with responsibility to those running, but also those of us around you to support you. So I think that's a broader community conversation for us to be having. Diane, any parting words? Thank you so much for this. Any parting words of wisdom for candidates thinking about barriers and getting ready for election this fall?
If you're thinking about it, reach out to someone who's actually doing it. And that will be a really important first step into you running in the next municipal election. Give it a try. It is fun. It is an amazing learning journey. it's well worth your time, I would say, as a corporate slogan is, just do it. I can't believe
Brilliant.
I just did that.
You did. All right. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, Diane Ballantyne, thanks so much for your time. Everyone watching, thank you for being a part of this video. More videos are being posted weekly now at municipalcampaignschool.ca. Keep watching, keep sharing your feedback. Let us know what else you'd like to see in these videos. We will do our best to get that content up for you. You can run and you can win. We are here to help. Good luck, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you.